On point one is on Trump's Gaza Peace Summit in Egypt and its regional and global implications. On point two is on decoding Bihar's Gathbandhans in run-up to the assembly elections. And let's take a quick look at the headlines. Prime Minister Modi meets Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand in New Delhi, hails efforts to bring new momentum to India-Canada ties. Amid rising criticism over Mamata Banerjee's remarks on the Durgapur gang rape, TMC MP Saugata Roy sparks controversy. All 5 suspects arrested. Actor Vijay to visit Karur on October 17th, 20 days after tragic stampede at party rally. In IRCTC case, court frames charges against Lalu, Rabri and Tejaswi. Pakistan faces widespread chaos as pro-Palestine rally by TLP turns violent. Roads sealed, paramilitary forces deployed. Sharm el-Sheikh is hosting a strategically important meeting of 20 nations chaired by US President Donald Trump and Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi for wide-ranging discussions focused on securing lasting peace in Gaza after 738 days of the war. The summit has a clear objective: end the war in Gaza and enhance efforts to achieve peace and stability in West Asia. Trump has already released 20-point peace proposal and he wants these countries to back it up in letter and spirit. The summit seeks to end the war in the Strip. Netanyahu will not attend the summit. Those in attendance among others include Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Palestinian Authority leader Mahmoud Abbas, French President Emmanuel Macron, Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Prime Minister Modi has deputed Minister of State for External Affairs Kirti Vardhan Singh as India's representative at the summit. Now, earlier addressing the Israeli parliament, Trump hailed the Gaza ceasefire as a new dawn for West Asia and expressed his satisfaction over the breakthrough after a long and tough road to peace. He said, "The people of the United States have stood in solidarity with Israel at every step."
Years ago, on the eve of the Simchat Torah holiday, thousands of innocent Israeli civilians were attacked by terrorists, and one of the most evil and heinous desecrations of innocent life the world has ever seen, the worst slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust. The cruelty of October 7th struck to the core of humanity itself. Nobody could believe what they were witnessing. The United States of America grieved alongside you, and we mourned for our own citizens who were so viciously taken that day. And to all the families whose lives were forever changed by the atrocities of that day, and all of the people of Israel, please know that America joins you in those two everlasting vows: never forget and never again.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu profusely thanked Trump for the safe return of hostages on behalf of all Israelis and standing up for Israel and the United Nations. He said no American president had done more for Israel.
We welcome you here to thank you for your pivotal leadership in putting forward a proposal that got the backing of almost the entire world. A proposal that brings all our hostages home. A proposal that ends the war by achieving all our objectives. A proposal that opens the door to an historic expansion of peace in our region and beyond our region. My friends, this is only a partial list. but it's enough to affirm what I've said time and again. Donald Trump is the greatest friend that the state of Israel has ever had in the White House. Mr. President, you are committed to this peace. I am committed to this peace. And together, Mr. President, we will achieve this peace. You succeeded in doing something that no one believed was possible. You brought most of the Arab world. You brought most of the world behind your proposal to free the hostages and end the war.
In Israel, families embraced hostages returning home after more than 700 days in captivity, while in Gaza, freed Palestinian prisoners were welcomed by cheering crowds. On Monday, the 20 surviving hostages released by Hamas were handed over to the Red Cross. The 28 deceased hostages will be returned in coffins draped with Israeli flags. The mortal remains will be sent to Forensic Institute for identification. Hamas had pledged to release 48 hostages, 20 of them alive, in exchange for 250 prisoners serving life sentences and more than 1,700 Palestinians detained after October 7, 2023 terrorist attack on Israel. Now, based on the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics, there were about 15.2 million Palestinians in the world as mid-2025 compared to the Israel's population crossed 10 million this year. An estimated 2.1 million Palestinians have been forced to flee their homes. They have been living in intense and overcrowded shelters with poor sanitation and limited water access. Now let us look at the next crucial stage of the peace talks that relates to Hamas. The next phase of negotiation must address demands for Hamas to disarm and end its rule of Gaza. Hamas, which has run the territory since 2007, would play no future role in its governance according to the plan. Hamas members would be offered amnesty or would be provided safe passage to another country. However, Hamas is unlikely to entirely give up its small arms and light weapons, nor hand over a map of its sophisticated tunnels network, which it spent decades building to resist Israel. Now let me quickly introduce my guests to you. I'm joined by Anat Bernstein, President, Israel Asia and CEO, BDO Israel India Investment. He joins me from Tel Aviv. Thank you so much, Anat.
Thank you.
Ambassador Deepak Bohra joins me. Thank you, sir. Professor Swaran Singh joins me, Center for International Studies. And Arjun Hardas will join me, India Representative, American Jewish Committee, very soon. But let me straight away go to Anat, who joins me from Tel Aviv. Describe this movement for us.
Well, for 2 years, we're waiting for this moment. And, you know, when you aspire for something and then you get it, you don't believe that you got it. So this is the mind frame in Israel. We see the pictures, we see the hostage that by now we know their names and their age and their family and their mother and their father. They are like our family. And we see those pictures that you're seeing on the screen. A lot of joy, I would say. And the hostage square, the square in the center of Tel Aviv, that is the center for the court and the museum, turned into the hostage square, where the hostage family gather. And over the past 2 years, that was the place of calling the government to release the hostage and do whatever they can to release it. This square is for the past 3 days, full to its fullest content, for 24/7, and people are now, you show it on the screen, people are cheering on the streets, crying, dancing, waving the Israeli flag, and understanding that that's the end of two long years. And we truly hope that the 20 points pact of President Trump will continue and we will go back to our normal life. I mean, I'm thinking it's a holiday now in Israel, and on Wednesday we are back to work, and I'm personally thinking, okay, so many things were halted for 2 years, and now that the hostages are back and hopefully the war is over, what's next for us? We never thought of what's next because we were so worried about the hostages. Hostages is a big thing in Israel, and not just the living ones that return today, 20 of them, but also 28 which are dead and needs to be buried gracefully in Israel and bring closure to their families as well. The hostages that came back over those 2 years in few trenches couldn't carry on their lives. They couldn't do anything but wait and work to bring the remaining hostages. They had what we call the guilt of the survivor. They said, I'm released, but 20 of my brothers and sisters are still in Gaza. I cannot carry on my life without them. And this is closure for not just civilians like me, that none of my immediate family is there, but for the entire society of Israel. We truly hope that we are embarking on a new chapter in our life, and inshallah we say also in Israel there will be peace in the region.
Okay, Ambassador Vora, if you take a step back, how would you describe this movement in history? Is it momentous structurally, or you think that it requires far more serious effort in context of political resolution of this issue?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to be on your channel. I've just returned to the nation's capital. And I want to tell the young lady from Tel Aviv, Shalom, Pitzakon le Israel, ma'am, you have won. You have brought your brothers and sisters back home. I heard your Prime Minister praise President Donald Trump very effusively for bringing the hostages home. No one has praised him for making peace there, because peace is not going to come so quickly. It's called the Gaza peace plan. But if you think that Hamas, which is dedicated to the obliteration of Israel, is going to change its mindset, ma'am, I'm 74 years young, 52 years in diplomacy. I've seen this and more in my career. Lots of sweet talk, great agreements will be signed, not worth the paper on which they are written. What's going to happen to the Palestinians in Gaza, sir? This is something very interesting. But now they're going to be put in an enclave inside Gaza, which will be surrounded on all sides by whatever. And a fellow called Tony Blair, I'm sure you've heard of him, quite a dubious British Prime Minister. He's going to be the Governor General of that little enclave where these fellows are going to live. I do not see peace coming, sir. I don't know how old you are, but I remember distinctly the Oslo peace process. The accords were signed between Yasser Arafat, Yitzhak Rabin, who was later assassinated, Shimon Peres, the foreign minister of Israel. They were signed. There was a lot of celebration. It took a year for the accords to unravel because there was no trust on either side. Extremism flourished. The Prime Minister of Israel was assassinated. Yasser Arafat told his chaps that I have signed this agreement because Al-Hudaybiyah, the accord signed between Prophet Muhammad and the hostile tribes of Mecca, was supposed to be for 10 years, but in 2 years, Muhammad, who had no intention of honoring that contract, he had conquered Mecca. So this kind of memory is still very strong. My own feeling, sir, we welcome this because the Oslo Accords were a dismal failure. We welcome this chance. We welcome the release of the hostages, but no one, nor his grandmother, is talking about peace. And then I see that the Europeans who were totally marginalized in this process, unlike in Oslo, they've all rushed to please President Donald Trump, come to Sharm el-Sheikh, where they will be doing whatever they are doing. I don't know what the end result is going to be. I don't even know who's going to sign the peace deal if there is one. Hamas says we're not going to go. I don't think the Israeli Prime Minister is going. We have sent our Minister of State. So I don't really know what the result will be. I'm sorry, my heart wants peace because the Israelis have suffered so much. When the attack took place, ma'am, on your country, I was a Jew that day. We were totally with you. Our hearts went out to you. So what I would like to say here is that my heart says, let's hope that peace comes. My mind says it's not going to be that easy. Okay. There's no trust.
Professor Swaran Singh, in your opening comments, I would like you to tackle this question. Our government has sent MOS. Any specific reason? Cabinet Minister has also not gone, where it's being attended by Erdogan and Macron and other people. We have sent an MOS. Can you decode that aspect? Because that's the India connect of the story.
I think clearly, Karthik, it's a difficult maneuvering between India's historic close connections and support to the Palestinian cause and India's increasingly close partnership with Israel. India has steered very carefully so far, and therefore it's a reflection of sustaining that kind of maneuverability by sending a junior minister by comparison to either the head of government or foreign minister himself being part of that Middle East summit meeting. As far as Ambassador Bohra's comment about a little pessimism about peace coming, I think all of us are in agreement on that. But let's put it in a historical perspective and see that this reality is not any different. And Ambassador Bohra will vouch me when I say that in last 300 years, the average lifespan of any peace agreement has been about 4 years. So peace agreements need to be repeatedly revised, signed, and they often get violated. So in last 2 years of relative despondency, when world started believing that nothing can stop Netanyahu's commitment to completely eliminate Hamas, this festive mood, I think, is a positive sort of pictures one can see here. But of course, challenges continue even in exchange of prisoners and detainees. The Palestinian detainees from the side of Israel, reportedly 1900 or 2000 or 1700, are still in process of being released. The Israeli prisoners or hostages are already released, 20 of them who were alive. But what about 28 who are coming packed in boxes? How much of that is going to be
Professor,
by
can the issue of Gaza, Professor, can the issue of Gaza and issue of Gaza and West Bank be treated separately?
I think the political dimension, if you see that 20-point proposal of President Trump, is of least importance as far as I read the 20 points. The most important reading that I see in it is the security of Israel and immediate infrastructure building and development of Gaza, disarmament and sort of destruction of Hamas as an organization, allowing them to leave the territory if they want to go to other countries. How and when and under what process the political representation of Palestinians will be sort of showcased or built is absolutely not clear. And they are all talking about an international kind of security stability force, international kind of group of experts, board of peace led by President Trump, externally driven stability, not peace, externally driven stability and the focus on security for Israel and development of Gaza Strip. That is the kind of focus in that sense. But I want to underline that this is not only first case of its kind where peace will have to be constant work in progress. Stability could perhaps be assured, and there are going to be so many hiccups, unbelievably difficult reality. But it's a good thing to see certain amount of festive mood, at least in Israel. And I was surprised Prime Minister Netanyahu saying that they have fulfilled all their goals, which is someone who studies diplomacy is a misnomer, because if one side has achieved all its goals, get ready for the next war as soon as possible, because other side has obviously lost it completely. So that's a kind of a formulation that still persists from Israeli side, and of course Hamas as well stands on its own commitment to sort of not really disarming, not disbanding itself.
Then let me ask this question point blank, sir, to Anat, because ultimately this is my understanding. I may be completely off the mark, Anat. In last 2 years, all the covert wars went overt in West Asia. There was a regime change in Syria. Openly, a nuclear installation was attacked, unprecedented in modern history of the world. Operations took place from Yemen to Tehran. The pager attack took place in Lebanon. Do you think that Israel has recovered its deterrence?
I truly hope so. I truly hope so. October 7 was not a pleasant event to Israel or to the Israel army, and they definitely took us by surprise.
Because if you recall the articles, all the articles at that point of time, since we live in a world of narrative war, the attack by Hamas actually casted a light on the Israel's technical infallibility.
True, and a lot of learning has been done since October 7. The chief of staff have resigned, the chief of intelligence have resigned, several other commanders that were in charge of the Gaza Strip area resigned. Still, there is a lot of learning to be done, but I truly hope that the attack in Iran and the other, not attacks, but operations in Lebanon and Syria brings back our deterrence in the world. And we have U.S. At our side. We worked together in the Iran Operation Rising Lion, or the Midnight Hammer, as the Americans call it. There are lessons learned in the Israeli army, but again, 50 years since Yom Kippur War, which caught us by surprise. It took us 50 years that we forgot. And I hope that we don't reach this situation again in 50 years. I hope that we learned our lesson, that we cannot be naive, and we cannot trust our neighbors when they are keeping silent, because silence can be a clue for something like October 7, especially when Hamas continues to say that when they have the time, they'll do October 7 again and again. So this is another lesson that we will have to learn. I will not be here in 50 years, I guess, but this is probably history that repeated itself, unfortunately. But definitely there are committees in Israel that are learning the October 7 fault and are building an army that can address those kind of attacks and region, whether it's Hamas or whether it's Iran or whether there is Yemen, which is a new area that we never dealt with Yemen before. We're so far away and they still send missiles at us, until last week when we had a missile coming from Yemen.
Absolutely. Ambassador, wars also have political objective. Do you think that Israel has achieved its political objective? Because they're suspending their action in the Gaza Strip. And my question to you is, you can treat Gaza like a piece of real estate, but can you resolve the issues related to the people of Gaza by treating it like a real estate?
That's a very good question. Professor Swaran Singh had put it beautifully that these peace deals don't last very long. They need to be renewed constantly. I don't think, ma'am, you will be probably around 50 years. I'm 74. I won't be around more than 2 decades at the most. My own feeling is, sir, as you rightly pointed out, Gaza is a piece of real estate. What is Donald Trump at the bottom? What's the bottom line? He's a real estate developer. He said in February, I'm going to build an international resort there. I've been to Gaza. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. You're seeing the pictures. And if it does become an international resort, I'm not sure if I can afford it, but if I could, I would go there. It is just so beautiful. So Trump wants to control Gaza. He wants to make money. That's the bottom line. And if Israel can get its own security in the process, why not? Israel deserves security more than anyone else. It's an idol of democratic stability in a very volatile Islamic region. So, good luck to Israel, ma'am. You have learnt your lessons, as you have said. They will attack you again. Don't you believe for a moment that they are going to reconcile to the existence of Israel right there? Well, fight as long as you can. We face that on our borders every day. Good luck to you.
Professor Swaran Singh, terrorist organizations don't retire. They metamorphose. You know, when Baath Party activists were being interrogated in the Abu Ghraib, you know, the US ended up creating ISIS. So in terms of, to quote Frantz Fanon, the cycle of violence perpetuates another cycle of violence and creates more radicalization. How do you end this process of radicalization, even from the Israeli perspective, that that the famous slogan of Hamas, from river to the sea? It's in a way is an ideology. They do not accept the right of Israelis to exist there. So how do you deal with that? I think that is the most profound question. It's about people, men and women and children.
That is not just profound but also equally puzzling question. The world has not yet found a clear formula to deal with the terrorism and find that peace talks with terrorism could bring peace on the ground. It has been one after another cases of either brute force, making them underground for a certain period of time. That is how mostly things have been handled. Ideal negotiations in any case involve both sides making concessions to each other. And I think that is where the whole focus needs to be, that both sides will have to give up some of their grand sort of ambitious war objectives and ultimately find that if they can coexist and live together, which is not visible as of now because Prime Minister Netanyahu doesn't accept two nations solution. And, Hamas, if it sort of disbands and disappears, might reappear in some other name, other shape, etc., etc. So that contention, I think, is as yet remains a puzzle as to how they can finally seek a resolution. Right now, even the operative tactical baby steps are in challenge because the second step of Israeli Defense Forces withdrawing cannot happen until International Stabilization Force is organized. I hope in the Middle East Summit where 20 leaders are meeting, this will be something which will be, sort of clinched as to how regional Arab and Islamic countries are going to contribute troops.
Ambassador Vora, he really summed it up. I don't know whether they're meeting to take up the issue of peace or they are meeting to actually pander to Trump's ego. Those are two different political objectives. And Ambassador Vora is right. I think they are all going there to cater to Donald Trump's ego. I think less about peace and more about the ego. Even the Venezuelan candidate who won the Nobel Prize dedicated to Donald Trump. And I was like, well, that's what the politics is. Let me play out one more bite of Donald Trump on the issue of war.
Generations from now, this will be remembered as the moment that everything began to change and change very much for the better. Like the USA right now, it will be the golden age of Israel and the golden age of the Middle East. It's going to work together. You think we settled 8 wars in 8 months. I'm now including this one, by the way, if that's okay. They may say, well, that was quick, because yesterday I was saying 7, but now I can say 8. The hostages are back. The hostages are back. It is a good feeling. Isn't that nice to say? I just said the hostage. First time I said the hostages are back. It feels so good to say it. No, and my personality actually is all about stopping wars, and it seems to work. It seems to work.
This is your first visit to Israel since you recognized Jerusalem as our capital and moved the embassy here. Thank you, President Trump, for that. Thank you for standing up to the lies against Israel in the United Nations. I have submitted your nomination to be the first non-Israeli recipient of the Israel Prize, Israel's highest award. As to that other prize, just a question of time, you'll get it. But I want you to get the Israel Prize, our highest award. May God bless America, may God bless Israel, and may God bless the covenant between our two promised lands. Thank you, Mr. President.
So this is Trump in the Israeli parliament. I'm also joined by Arjun Hadas. Arjun, your opening comments. Are you hopeful that there will be some sort of a concrete resolution in Sharm el-Sheikh?
I wouldn't use the word concrete. I would use the word temporary, because the future also depends. If you look at the 20-point plan to begin with, there are a lot of things that are dependent on first a various number of things happening. Remember, this is a ceasefire plan. This is not a peace plan per se, the 20-point plan. The surrender, the giving up of arms by the Hamas, the leaving of by the Hamas of leaving Gaza for another territory, etc. That's not yet, nothing has even begun about it. And you've seen yourself about how openly, without any shame at all, the Hamas is firing on locals, on some opposition people who are opposing Hamas. They're openly shooting them in the streets. The so-called famous guy from Twitter has also been knocked out. It's a ceasefire. It's dependent completely on what happens next. And remember, the most important, who's going to replace? People are talking about the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority has to first fulfill its reforms, which it hasn't even begun. And the top reforms that it has to implement within its own system before it is handed over Gaza to govern, for example, is the cancellation of or to change or to completely scrap the pay for slay, which I will repeat. Pay for slay is where the Palestinian Authority government in Ramallah is paying the families of suicide bombers or murderers who are sitting in Israeli jails to where they have managed to kill Israelis and foreigners as well. And they're paying their families an annual income, depending on the severity of how well have they done their task. So this sort of a thing has not yet been cancelled. The second thing is reform of their education system, where they're taught right from kindergarten onwards, or even earlier from home, that the Jews are worthy of slaying. If that until if
why
you ask
can't you shut the schools? I know you're not the representative of the Israeli government. Why can't these schools be shut?
Because the schools are being handled by the Palestinian Authority. That is being handled. You can't just go and shut these off. This is an agreement which has come in. You have to shut the agreements. They keep promising that the Palestinian Authority, they will reform,
Okay.
and nothing happens.
Okay, you stay with me. I'm joined by George Birnbaum, the former Chief of Staff and Advisor to Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me. He joins me live from Washington. Sir, your opening comments to what's going to happen in Sharm el-Sheikh, and as the day passed today, sir.
It's been a very emotional day for the Israeli people and for Jewish people around the world. We brought home 20 of our live hostages, and we're still waiting for Hamas to keep their side of the deal to bring home the remaining dead hostages. They cannot play this game. Their time has run out, and while we're celebrating the return of the 20 hostages, we're still waiting with anticipation for the other 28. We will not forget them. We will not let Hamas play games with them. Having said that, today, we start tonight the Jewish holiday of Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah, which is to the day that October 7th massacre happened. And I think all Jews in synagogues and in their homes over the next 48 hours will be saying special prayers, thanking God, thanking the Israeli government, and most importantly, thanking Donald Trump for allowing us to celebrate the return of all our live hostages.
The bigger question here is that the objectives in terms of security have been achieved, but has the special operation in Gaza been able to achieve the larger political objective, that is to ensure peace in the region?
When we spoke a few weeks ago, and we talked about peace, and as some of your guests have previously mentioned, peace is not achieved through the signing of a document. It's not just achieved through the laying down of arms. It's achieved by recognition of someone's right to exist. And that is still yet something we have to hear from the Palestinian leadership. As your previous guests have stated, they still teach the hatred of Jews, the demonization of Jews. They glorify the killing of Jews. They pay the families of those that kill Jews. Until that mentality stops, until that mentality is eradicated, peace is going to be very, very elusive. Long-term peace. Although, I will say that one of the fundamental philosophies of Prime Minister Netanyahu is based on a 18th century Prussian philosopher named Immanuel Kant, who wrote an essay called Perpetual Peace, in which he proffered that if you're not making peace between democracies, if you're making peace between a democracy and a dictatorship, and in this case, a terror organization, you have to have external efforts and forces to maintain the peace. And as we spoke last time, Donald Trump has done a magnificent job of bringing the Islamic and Muslim world together, whether it be Saudi Arabia or Qatar, the UAE, Egypt, and others, to tell the Palestinians, this is your last chance. and we're going to enforce the peace. As long as the Islamic and Muslim countries in the Middle East are committed to enforcing a peace, then the prospects of a lasting peace increase. But it will only really end as soon as the Palestinians say the Jews have a right to exist, they have a right to exist in the land of Israel, and we're going to stop teaching the hatred and demonization and glorification of the murder of Jews.
George, it's also incumbent on one more thing. India deals with it. You know, our ability to change the behavior of Pakistan can lead to peace. But it's difficult to do so because the nature of the Pakistani state doesn't change because it's run by the Pakistani army. How much do you think that the war which Israel has fought has been able to change the nature of the Iranian state, which has been sponsoring these non-state actors around Israel? Because that's where the peace would be incumbent, because ultimately they were financing it, nurturing it, preparing them from Yemen to Lebanon.
100%. And let's make a distinction, of course, between the Iranian state and the Iranian people. The vast majority of the Iranian people stand side by side with Israel. They want peaceful coexistence with Israel. They are not the radical imams and radical Islamists that fund terror around the world and want to see the destruction of Israel. The big first step in changing the paradigm and changing the situation was when President Trump sent those B-2 bombers on a 36 or 37-hour mission to bomb the Iranian nuclear sites. That defanged, to a large degree, the Iranian mullahs and the Iranian regime. The next step is somehow the removal of those mullahs and the Islamists from power in Iran. And that is going to really depend a lot on, one, the Iranian people from within, but two, external pressures. So again, in order to whether it be Pakistan, Iran, or Hezbollah, there has to be two pieces to this. The first is the internal piece. The people have to want, the people of a country have to want to have peace. If you have that, and then you can create the external forces that force the Islamists and the radicals out of power, then you have a real hope for peace. And I hope that that happens soon in Iran. It's happening in Lebanon. It's happening in Syria. Hopefully it'll happen to the Palestinian Authority. And I also pray for the people of India that it happens in Pakistan as well.
Thank you, George. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll take closing comment from Arjun. Arjun, do you think that this ceasefire can hold? I don't think you can change the nature of Hamas. I don't think it's easy to change the nature of an organization which has fostered so much of hatred.
It will hold, the ceasefire, as long as it benefits.
Why will the ceasefire hold?
Ceasefire will hold if it is enforced by force, literally, by the sponsors, by the promoters, such as the Qataris and Turks. Whatever, so, it's literally a case of, do they get what they want personally? What does Qatar get what it wants? A security blanket, let's say, by the United States, which is pretty much clear that they are offering them something like that. There's been news about an airbase, Qatari airbase, being set up inside United States territory. And then if Turkey gets its F-35. So if they get all that, they don't care about the Hamas eventually. And they're enforcing them that if you try and do something, we will lose all these things, and that's not good. So they have the power over them. You don't think that the Hamas could have sustained itself so long without external help? So how do you think they're going to do that if the external actors, external supporters decide that it's not worth doing this again? That's it.
Okay, thank you all of you. Thank you all of you joining me. I've really run short of time, so this is all I had on Point. In On Point 2, we'll talk about Bihar's Gadbandhans, not Gadbandhan, Gadbandhans, and focus on small parties, but after a short break.
Alakazam fish disappeared. Moonlight.
Smooth, silent, seamless. Sliding systems from headache.
मुझसे नहीं हो गया। उनको देख रहे हो? क्या संगीत तक ये स्टेप सीख पाएंगे? ये खूबसूरत चिंता आप करिए। शादी के पर्सनल लोन की चिंता हम संभाल लेंगे। With EMI starting at 94 rupees per day and tenure up to 7 years.
Java 42, the answer.
है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कर आता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
हम यहाँ जान पे खेल रहे हैं, तू फोन पे खेल रहा है।
अरे पापा की गाड़ी का इंश्योरेंस रिन्यू कर रहा हूँ।
बड़े शौकीन पापा है, इतनी बड़ी गाड़ी।
तो एको से कराना।
क्यों?
क्योंकि जितनी बड़ी गाड़ी
एको पर उतना ज्यादा फायदा।
नहीं फटा।
अब फटी कार का एक्शन हीरो एको।
थोड़ा आराम कर ले।
पर कहाँ रुकेंगे?
मैं बताऊं, इंडियन ऑयल स्वागत पेट्रोल पंप। स्वागत है हैप्पी जर्नी की रेसिपी।
With the race for the Bihar elections heating up, the focus is shifting to the smaller players in the two alliances, the NDA and the Mahagathbandhan. Even as the NDA has announced its seat-sharing plan, hectic parleys are on the rise in India alliance. In a state where caste affiliation may swing the election in closely fought contests, this becomes even more important. The margin in the 2020 Bihar Assembly elections and their outcomes, which eventually were there, were razor thin. The NDA beat Mahagathbandhan by just 12,768 votes. 12,768 votes. And this was statewide. And when it comes to close margins in 2020, both NDA and Mahagathbandhan will keep a close watch on 52 of the state's 243 constituencies that were decided by less than 5,000 votes in 2020. In such a cliffhanger, Bihar's smaller parties and independents with roughly 18.5 and 8.8 vote share respectively in 2020 proved to be difference between forming the government or sitting in opposition. That is why the seat sharing among smaller parties in both the NDA and Mahagathbandhan becomes so important in 2025. In the NDA's smaller allies, Hindustani Awam Morcha headed by Union Minister Jitan Ram Manjhi and Rashtriya Lok Morcha of Rajya Sabha MP Upendra Kushwaha, which got 6 seats each, have expressed their resentment over the seat sharing formula. On Sunday, the ruling NDA announced seat sharing for the elections to the 243 member assembly with Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, and the BJP deciding to contest 101 constituencies each and leaving the rest to the smaller allies. Union Minister Chirag Paswan will field candidates of his LJP on 29 seats. HAM's Upendra Kushwaha has expressed his disappointment over getting just 6 seats since 2020 Vikashsheel Insan Party leader Mukesh Sahni has deserted the NDA to join the Mahagathbandhan. Sahni wields influence over the Nishat community in Bihar and won 11 seats in 2020. He has been seeking 30 seats from India Alliance and has been also seeking the Deputy CM's post. Last time, JDU felt the impact of LJP's indifference. Will the India Alliance suffer a setback because of the lack of unity? Are the questions which we are going to tackle. On this, I am joined by my input editor Brijesh Pandey, Mrityunjay Sharma, political analyst and author of Broken Promises, Caste Crime and Politics in Bihar, and Bhanuchandra Nagarajan, political analyst. Let me straight away go to Brijesh. So are these small parties or the smaller versions of the bigger parties or the regional parties, will they call the shots?
I think they are calling the shots. I will not go to the extent of saying that they are the one who will decide how many seats they will get. But the fact of the matter is that, if you look at the kind of pulls and pressures that was there, LJP getting 29 and other smaller regional parties getting slightly lesser, slice of the pie. The fact of the matter is that how important they are is not lost on anybody, especially the bigger parties. And given the importance of this particular assembly elections, which may set a narrative, no party wants to take chance, and this is the reason why yesterday when Dharmendra Pradhan, who is in charge of BJP in Bihar, he announced the seat sharing formula. He announced the number of seats all parties are going to get with 101 perhaps for the first time, both BJP and JDU playing on equal footing. The fact of the matter is that despite announcing it yesterday, they were not able to do a press conference which was slated at 4 o'clock. This shows the kind of hard power bargain which is being driven by smaller parties, because they are also aware that in very keenly contested elections, no political party, despite the bandwidth of somebody like BJP, you know, which is ruling and is a big force as far as India is concerned, will be able to ignore them. And that is the reason what we have been given to understand is that the press conference was called.
Bhanu, you know, that's the beauty of the Indian democracy, and I think Bharatiya Janata Party keeps it Bharatiya Janata Party, the Bihar electorate keeps it more alive than the other electorates by empowering so many small players, because it's also democratization of the electoral space. But do you think that these parties this time also hold the sway? And the second part of my question is, do you think it's really a make or break election for both Gathbandhan and NDA?